What would you do if your family lied to you for 3 years, telling you your dying grandfather didn't want to see you? What if you discovered they'd been hiding his desperate phone calls, his letters, even his final wishes? And what if his last act of love was so powerful, it turned their golden child into a beggar? This is that story. The wind chimes were still there. Same melody that used to lull me to sleep when I was 8, visiting Grandpa's cabin every summer. But now, standing on this porch after 3 years of silence, they sounded hollow, empty. I knocked twice. The door creaked open, and there she was. Grandma. Older, grayer, but those eyes still sharp as winter frost. "So now you come," she said, not moving from the doorway. My throat tightened. "I got your message about Grandpa. When's the funeral?" She stared at me for what felt like forever. Then she stepped back, letting me in. "Funeral was 2 weeks ago, Michael. Where were you?" 2 weeks. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. "What do you mean 2 weeks? I just got your voicemail yesterday." "I've been calling for months." Her voice cracked. "Your grandfather, he asked for you every single day." The cabin smelled like pine and old coffee, exactly how I remembered. But something was wrong. Everything was wrong. "Grandma, I never got any calls. Mom told me you both moved to some nursing home. Said they weren't allowing visitors because of COVID restrictions." She turned around slowly, and I saw something in her face that made my blood run cold. "Michael," she whispered, "we never left this house. We never left this house." Those 5 words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I sank into Grandpa's old leather chair, the one that still smelled like his pipe tobacco. "But Mom said, she said you were in Sunset Manor. She even showed me the brochure." Grandma's hands were shaking as she poured coffee. "Michael, honey, I called your house 47 times in the last 6 months. Your mother answered twice. Both times she told me you'd changed your number, that you were too busy with your new life to deal with family drama." I pulled out my phone, my hands trembling. "Grandma, this is the same number I've had since high school. Look," I showed her my call log. "The same number." She stared at the screen, then at me. Something broke behind her eyes. "Your father came by once," she continued, her voice barely a whisper. "Said you were doing well. Said you'd moved on from all this small-town nonsense. Said you specifically asked them not to bother you with updates about us old folks." The room started spinning. Every Christmas card I never got. Every birthday call that never came. Every time I wondered why my grandparents had suddenly gone silent. "Grandma, I sent letters. I sent emails to Dad asking about you both. He always said you were fine adjusting well to the new place." She walked to the kitchen drawer and pulled out a stack of envelopes. Unopened. My handwriting on every single one. "These came to the house. Your father brought them by last month. Said you were sending them to the wrong address as some kind of joke." I recognized every envelope. Letters I'd poured my heart into. Updates about my job, my struggles, my small victories. Questions about Grandpa's health, begging for just one phone call. All of them. Unopened. Like my words didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. "He's gone, isn't he?" I whispered. Grandma nodded, tears finally falling. 3 weeks ago. In his sleep, he was holding one of your old school photos." The rage hit me like a freight train. 3 years. 3 years of thinking my grandparents had forgotten about me. 3 years of believing I wasn't worth a single phone call. "They lied to me," I said, my voice cracking. "My own parents lied to me." Grandma sat down across from me, her face pale. "Michael, there's more you need to know." She walked to Grandpa's old desk and pulled out a small tape recorder. The kind he used for his voice memos when his handwriting got too shaky. "He made these for you. Every week. Sometimes every day. Toward the end." She pressed play, and suddenly his voice filled the room. That warm, gravelly voice I'd missed so desperately. Day 43 without hearing from my curious boy. I keep wondering if he's still tinkering with those machines in his garage. Remember when he fixed my old radio with nothing but spare parts? Kid had magic in his hands? My chest felt like it was caving in. Another recording. Martha thinks maybe he's mad at us. But I know Michael, he's not the type to hold grudges. Something's not right here. And another. I called his work today. Some nice lady said he talks about us all the time. Asks if anyone knows good physical therapists for his grandfather's bad knee. That boy still cares. So why won't they let us talk to him? I couldn't breathe. Grandpa had been looking for me, fighting for me, while I thought he'd abandoned me. Grandma's voice was steel now. Your grandfather figured it out about a month before he passed. Said your parents were keeping us apart on purpose. Said they had their reasons, but he couldn't understand why they'd hurt you like this. What reasons? The words came out like a growl. She hesitated, then walked to the kitchen phone. I think it's time everyone came home for a family meeting. There's something your grandfather left behind, something they've been waiting for. She dialed a number I recognized. My parents' house. Linda, it's Martha. Yes, I know what time it is. Michael's here. He knows about the letters about the lies. You need to come up here, tonight, all of you. Her voice got harder. And bring Ethan. It's time for the will reading. She hung up and looked at me with eyes full of fire. Your grandfather wasn't just a retired mechanic, Michael, and that old workshop behind the house. It wasn't just for fixing lawnmowers. 2 hours later, headlights cut through the darkness. 3 cars pulled into the driveway, like a funeral procession. Mom and Dad in their pristine BMW. Ethan in his brand new Tesla. And behind them, a silver sedan I didn't recognize. Ethan walked in first, that same cocky smirk he'd worn since high school. Designer jacket, expensive watch, everything about him screaming success. He barely glanced at me. Mike, he said like we were old buddies. Heard you finally made it up here. Took you long enough. My parents followed looking uncomfortable. Mom avoided my eyes completely. Dad gave me a stiff nod. Michael, Dad said, glad you could make it. The audacity, the sheer audacity of that statement made my hands clench into fists. The man in the silver sedan turned out to be Robert Chen Grandpa's lawyer. He carried a leather briefcase and wore the kind of serious expression that meant business. Thank you all for coming, Mr. Chen said, settling into the living room. I know this is a difficult time, but Harold was very specific about his wishes. Ethan leaned back in his chair, relaxed, like he already knew what was coming. Let's get this over with, he said. I've got a conference call with Tokyo in the morning. Mr. Chen opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick document. Harold McGrath's last will and testament dated 6 months ago. He cleared his throat and began reading. To my grandson, Ethan, who has achieved so much success in his career, I leave the sum of $10 million in various accounts and investments. Ethan's grin widened. Mom and Dad exchanged satisfied looks. However, Mr. Chen continued, and the room went dead silent. To my grandson Michael, who has always seen the world through different eyes, I leave the following. My heart stopped. The family property, including the house, the workshop, and all 43 acres of land. The complete archive of my engineering designs and patents, and full ownership of McGrath Solutions LLC, including all current contracts and future earnings. The silence was deafening. Ethan's face went white. What the hell is McGrath Solutions? He demanded. Mr. Chen smiled slightly. Your grandfather's consulting firm specializes in water purification systems for rural communities. Current annual revenue approximately $15 million. The room exploded. This is insane! Ethan shot up from his chair. He's a college dropout. He works at a damn auto shop. Ethan, calm down. Dad started, but his voice was shaking. No, this is ridiculous. Grandpa was losing it at the end. Everyone knows that. This will can't be valid. Mr. Chen remained perfectly calm. I assure you, Harold was of sound mind when he drafted this document. In fact, he anticipated there might be some objections. He reached into his briefcase again and pulled out a sealed envelope. My name was written on it in Grandpa's careful handwriting. He asked me to read this aloud if there were any disputes. My hands were trembling as Mr. Chen opened the letter. The paper crinkled in the silence. "My dear Michael," he began reading. "If you're hearing this, it means my family is probably losing their minds right about now." Even from beyond the grave, Grandpa still had a sense of humor. "Ethan was my pride because the family made him so. Straight A's, perfect college, perfect job, perfect life, handed to him on a silver platter. But, Michael, you were my hope." I felt tears burning behind my eyes. "You saw things others didn't see. When everyone else looked at broken things and threw them away, you saw potential. You listened when others talked. You created when others consumed." Ethan was pacing now, his face red with rage. "They called you slow, son, said you didn't apply yourself, said you lacked ambition. But you were never slow. You were precise, you were thoughtful. You were everything I hoped a man could be." Mom was crying now, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or grief. "That old workshop you loved so much, every water filter design in there came from problems you helped me solve. Remember when you asked why the Henderson's well water tasted funny? That conversation led to our first major contract." I remembered. I was 16, helping Grandpa fix their old pump. McGrath Solutions exists because of your curiosity, your compassion, and your brilliant mind. I just wish I could have told you sooner." The letter continued. "To Linda and Tom, I hope someday you understand that love isn't about control. And to Ethan, $10 million should be enough to buy whatever happiness money can purchase." Ethan slammed his fist on the coffee table. "This is garbage. He's giving a multi-million-dollar company to someone who couldn't even graduate college." "You're right," I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. "I couldn't graduate college. You know why, Ethan?" My voice got stronger. "Because I was working 3 jobs to pay for it myself while you got a full ride from Mom and Dad. Because when I asked for help, I was told I needed to figure it out on my own. Because apparently being self-reliant was only a virtue when it was convenient for everyone else." The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear the old cabin settling the wind outside, even our breathing. Dad finally spoke up, his voice careful and measured. "Michael, be reasonable here. You don't know anything about running a business. This company, it's worth millions. You could lose everything." "What he's trying to say," Mom jumped in, "is that maybe you should consider signing over the business rights to Ethan. He has an MBA. He understands these things." I looked at them. Really looked at them. These people who'd raised me, who'd supposedly loved me, who were now asking me to hand over my grandfather's final gift because they didn't trust me to handle it. "Sign it over," I repeated slowly. "It would be the smart thing to do," Ethan said, his voice now dripping with fake concern. "I mean, think about it, Mike. You'd still have the property, the house, but let someone who actually knows business handle the complicated stuff." That's when Grandma spoke up. She'd been silent through most of this, just watching. But now she stood up, all 5 feet of her, and her voice could have cut glass. "Harold McGrath worked 60 years to build something meaningful, something that mattered. And now you want to hand it over to someone who's never earned a damn thing in his life." "Martha, please," Dad started. "No, Tom, I'm not done." She turned to face the whole family. "You people disgust me. Harold saw what Michael could become 20 years ago. While you were pushing him aside, making him feel small, making him believe he wasn't good enough, Harold was teaching him, mentoring him, believing in him." Ethan rolled his eyes. "This is ridiculous. We're talking about $15 million a year. You can't just give that to someone because of feelings." That's when I found my voice, really found it. "You're right, Ethan. You can't just give someone $15 million because of feelings." I stood up, looking him straight in the eye. "But you can earn it by spending your summers learning how water filtration works instead of playing video games. By asking questions about why some communities don't have clean water instead of complaining about your internet speed. by caring about something bigger than yourself for once in your privileged life. Mom gasped. Michael, that's not fair. Fair. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You want to talk about fair, Mom? Fair would have been letting me say goodbye to the man who believed in me. Fair would have been not lying to me for 3 years. Fair would have been treating me like I mattered. Dad's face was red now. We always treated you the same as Ethan. No, you didn't. My voice was steady now, calm. You treated Ethan like your son. You treated me like your problem. Grandma walked over and put her hand on my shoulder. Your grandfather knew you'd be ready for this. He watched you fix impossible things with impossible odds your whole life. He wasn't giving you a business, Michael. He was giving you a mission. They left that night. All of them. Dad didn't say goodbye. Mom tried to hug me, but it felt hollow, desperate, like she was hugging a stranger. Ethan paused at the door, turned back one last time. You'll regret this, Mike. When you're bankrupt in 6 months, don't come crying to us. I watched their taillights disappear into the darkness, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Grandma made coffee. Real coffee, not the instant stuff. We sat in the quiet kitchen, processing everything that had just happened. He was proud of you, you know, she said softly, even when you couldn't see it, especially when you couldn't see it. The next morning, I called my boss at the auto shop, put in my 2 weeks' notice. That afternoon, I drove to the workshop behind the house. Grandpa's sanctuary. It was incredible. Blueprints covering every wall. Water purification systems, solar-powered pumps, filtration designs I'd never seen before. And in the corner, a computer with files going back 20 years. Contracts with villages in Guatemala, reservations in Arizona, rural communities across the South. My phone rang. Unknown number. Michael McGrath. The voice was professional, warm. This is Michael. This is Sarah Hendricks from the Henderson Foundation. We've been working with your grandfather for 5 years now. We heard about his passing and, well, we have 3 communities in Kentucky waiting for new water systems. Harold said you'd be taking over. I looked around the workshop at Grandpa's life's work, at the legacy he'd left for me. Yes, I said. Yes, I am. That was 4 years ago. McGrath Solutions isn't just a business now. It's a nonprofit. We've installed clean water systems in 47 communities across 12 states. We've partnered with universities, trained local technicians, created jobs in places that desperately needed them. My best friend from high school, Vanessa, quit her corporate law job to become our legal counsel. She said watching me find my purpose inspired her to find hers. Last month, we got a call from the White House. The president wanted to present me with a humanitarian award for our work in Appalachian communities. Standing on that stage, holding that award, I thought about Grandpa, about how he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself, about how sometimes the greatest gift isn't money or recognition. Sometimes it's just someone believing in you when nobody else will. I still come back to the cabin every few months. Grandma's 91, now still sharp as a tack, still making the best coffee in 3 counties. Last weekend, I was cleaning out some of Grandpa's old books when something fluttered to the floor. A piece of paper folded small, tucked behind our old family photo from when I was 12. My hands shook as I unfolded it. Grandpa's handwriting faded but clear. To Michael, who never needed a spotlight to shine, the world is full of broken things waiting for someone who cares enough to fix them. You've always been that someone. Don't let anyone tell you different. Love, Grandpa. P.S. Check the bottom drawer of my desk. There's something there for your future family. I walked to his old desk, pulled open the bottom drawer. Inside was a small wooden box I'd never seen before. Inside that box was a ring, simple, elegant, with a note wrapped around it. For when you find someone who sees you the way I always have. I thought about Vanessa, about the way she looks at me when I'm explaining a new water filtration design, the way she believes in our mission and our work in me. The wind chimes outside started their familiar melody. For the first time in my life, they didn't sound hollow. They sounded like home. My phone buzzed. Text from Ethan. The first communication I'd had from my family in 2 years. Saw the news about your award. Dad says maybe we should talk. I looked at the message for a long time. Then I deleted it. Some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some families aren't made of blood. Some love has to be earned, not expected. I walked to the workshop, turned on the lights, and got back to work. Somewhere in Kentucky, there's a community waiting for clean water. Somewhere in Arizona, kids are going to school instead of walking miles for water that might make them sick. That's Grandpa's real legacy. Not the money, not the business, not even the recognition. It's the knowledge that one person working quietly, caring deeply, can change everything. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, someone believes in you enough to show you how. What do you think about Michael's choice to delete that text? Have you ever had to choose between family drama and your own peace? Let me know in the comments below, and if this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe for more real-life drama stories that'll keep you up at night.